to everyone in the SMS comp as we return back home from our successful gather round. We'll have a look at our first matchup. It's between the 2-2 Bamboozled Asian side taking on the 3-2 surprising Walsh Dogs outfit. This week here, I'm looking at these two sides and I'm a little bit worried for the Walsh Dogs. They have got, so just before actually we go into the sides, in terms of the bye teams, we've got Sydney and Collingwood who don't play. So if you've got any players from those sides, they won't take their spot on the ground. So the Walsh Dogs, we've got Mychek, DeGoey, Crisp and Papley. So some pretty big names there. They're all going to miss. And I think those players there, well, three of those players have had involvement in a lot of their goals for the season. So really apart from those players there, they've got Waitman, who I think he might need to kick something like 7 or 8 goals this week, and perhaps Zach Bailey to kick 3 or 4. Apart from those two players, there's really not much avenue to goal. I think maybe someone like a Newcomb or a Luke Davies-Uniacke might bob up for 1 or 2, but really apart from that, that's really what they've got. The Bamboozled Asian side, Charlie Cameron, he kicked 2 last week against a weaker outfit in the Roos, and I think this week he can maybe do that again against the D's, although should be a tougher contest for him. Coniglio and Riccardi last week did pretty well. I think Coniglio bobbed up for a couple of goals against the Suns, so I'm expecting those two boys to kick 4 goals combined. Aaron Norton, I think he'll have a big Friday night against Essendon. I think he'll play on McKay, but I think he's still good enough to kick 3 or 4 goals, as the Dogs, I think, should be able to bombard that Essendon backline. And Hardwick, geez, what a move forward by him. He went in the third quarter, went down from the backline up to the forward line and kicked 4 goals. So what a massive, that's just like a new player there for the Asians. And even though they have McCreary, I can't even say it, McCreary and Haywood with a bye. They have got injuries to Perkins and Frederick this week, so they're a bit of a loss, but I think they're going to thump the Walsh Dogs by 68 points. Our next match for round 5 is the 4-1 top of the ladder White Line Fever taking on the 3-1 Free Smoke. I think this is going to be an absolute ripping contest, actually. For the Free Smoke team, they have got a couple of players on buys in Josh Dacos and Chad Warner, but also see the suspended Cozzy Pickett miss this week through his really undisciplined act. So he will miss. We're going to be looking at Jeremy Cameron to go big against North Melbourne. He's only been kicking a couple of goals in games lately, and really, I think he's due for like a 5 or 6 goal haul. So maybe this week is the one. He usually does play well against North Melbourne, Jeremy Cameron. Bailey Fritsch, he's looking really threatening in front of the goals. He's kicked goals most weeks and kicks them in really quick fashion. Ben Brown was quiet last week, but I think he will do well tomorrow night. I am tipping that he will get a couple of goals. Higgins from the Saints, and a Free Smoke player. He's been kicking goals and also is one of those players that can go missing for a couple of quarters, but then when he gets involved can kick a couple of quick goals as well. And I think Cam Zurhaar has been one of those players. I think he's been going through the midfield a bit. I think he's due for a big game, and I can see him kicking a couple of goals this week as well. For the White Line Fever, we have Charlie Curnow, who's back at Marvel. He's a specialist there. I think he'll get 4 or 5 goals. We've also got Callum Brown, who got 3 goals last week, and I think he'll get another multiple this week. Lincoln McCarthy plays tomorrow night against the D's and will be presented with a couple of opportunities. He just has to be accurate, and I think he will kick maybe 2 goals. And Georgiades and Burn Jones. What a combination there. Georgiades playing his first game last week and looked fantastic. And Burn Jones has been probably one of the premium small forwards and been very consistent so far. And Sam Darcy, young fella at the Dogs, who the Fever have picked up and the past few games has kicked multiple. So it's going to be, I think, a very high-scoring contest, this one. I think it'll be something like the Fever will get about 123 points, and I think the Free Smoke will get about 109. So it will be a 14-point win to the Fever. Our third game this week in round 5 is the 3-1 Pokie Bombs taking on the 2-3 Rubber Gloves, who have been a little bit disappointing as of late. We'll have a look at the rubber glove side. They have got Hoskin, Elliott and McLean with buys. Hawkins was very quiet last week and is back at one of his home grounds this week. He should be able to get at least 2 or 3 goals against a North Melbourne pretty weak side. I think the team will have plenty of opportunities to get the ball down forward to Hawkins. I think Rosas and Daniels as well will cause some mischief to the Pokie Bombs team and should be able to get some goals this week. In particular, Daniels, who only registered a behind last week, and can Brockman, returning from concussion, kick a couple of goals as well for the Rubber Gloves, as they'll be desperate for some more goals from him, as he has had a quiet start to the season. Over to the Pokie Bombs, we have got Harry McKay back at Marvel Stadium. I am going to predict him to kick 3 goals. He was goalless last week, but he does play Marvel fairly well. And, we'll get lots of chances against the Crows. Ben King playing the Hawks, I think he'll kick 3 or 4. And Stengel and Rochelle, both, fantastic live wire forwards, will get opportunities. And whilst there is an injury cloud over Sam Swakowski with a calf, he might play, he may not. Harrison Petty will get opportunities in the forward line for the Pokie Bombs outfit, who unfortunately do lose McGuinness, Logan McDonald and Heaney. But in saying that, I do think the Bombs will explode the Rubber Gloves to bits and get over the line by a comfortable 29 points. Minted Mick, who have looked really, really promising and threatening most weeks, taking on the bottom of the ladder 0 and 4 Wobbly Kickers. The Wobbly Kickers have got Darcy Cameron with a bye, whilst Minted Mick has Adams and Lipinski with their buys. Looking at the Wobbly Kickers side, Tex Walker, he's been a bit down this season. Has had some players get in his way, when trying to take some contested marks, and then when having shots at goal, he's not, been as accurate and lethal as he has in previous seasons. Hipwood kicked 3 last week. He looked great, but, can he back that up? He's the type of player to kick 4 one week or 3 one week and then not do anything for a couple of weeks, so they're going to have to get some consistency out of him. Cadman's been a nice young addition to the side, whilst he's in his second season. Can we get maybe a multiple or a 3-goal haul from him? But I'm tipping Shai Bolton to kick 3 goals this week to back up from his 4 goals last week. And Reed, the young fella at West Coast who looked fantastic last week, to come and kick another multiple this week with 2 goals. We look at the Minted Mix side. We have Max King. I think he'll kick a couple of goals, although has a tough matchup. I think Dusty's due for a big day out on Sunday against the Eagles, and I think he'll get that. Chandler and Rosie are 2 young guns. I think they'll combine for 4. Both looked good last week, in particular Rosie. And can Cripps kick a couple of goals at Marvel against the Crows? I think he'll have some opportunities. The Crows aren't looking particularly great. Have shocked people in a bad way with how they've performed. So with that said, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, this one. I don't really see many big-scoring games for these players. I think Minted Mick will win by about 10 points. Our final match of the round is between 2 real low sides here in A-Track, who are 1 and 4. Coming up against Rocket Rod, who won their first game in their club history, and they're 1 and 3. Both players see this game as a real 8-pointer. I think the winner sort of stays in touch with the top 6, whereas the loser is going to be pushing it really hard uphill to try and get a finals place come the end of the season. So it's a really massive game, this one. Looking at the all-out A-Track team, they don't have any buys, which is a real positive for them. And looking at Ginnivan and Dylan Moore, they're 2 small Hawk forwards that I think can continue their good form. Larky and Zane Dersma also, I think they're going to have to kick 5 or 6 between them to keep the pressure on the Rocket Rod outfit. And can Fogarty build from his last week's 2-goal performance? He needs to keep building up his confidence. And Flanders and Ainsworth also presented very good opportunities against the Hawks for A-Track. Looking at Rocket Rod, Henry and Close, they are playing North, so I think both of them will have, genuine chances at the sticks, and I can easily see those two boys kicking, between 5 and 6. Last week, Hogan and Green absolutely destroyed the rubber gloves and kicked 9 between them. This week, I am still tipping them to combine for 7 against a more formidable Saints outfit. Horn Francis, I'll expect him to move a little bit more up forward, seeing that Finlayson has been rubbed out for 3 weeks, and a little bit of a impact player, Sean Powell-Pepper is returning from his 4-game suspension, and he's really like an impact player. I expect him to, do well and, contribute to this Rocket Rod outfit. But I do think the A-Track side is a little bit stronger and have a few more weapons, the A-Track to win by 19 points. We now have a look at our BH Cup matchup this week with the SMS Fortress team taking on the Viatel side in the barbecue comp. Both teams have lost Goulden this week to a bye, whilst Viatel also has Darcy Cameron, Brody Grundy and Lockie Schultz having byes and will sit out, whilst the Fortress team will have Elliott also missing out and have lost Finlayson as well to his 3-game suspension, which is a bit unfortunate for them. We have a look at the Fortress team. They've got Rioli in some really good form. Expect him to continue that this week and get opportunities. Langford was a bit quiet last week. I think he may have gone goalless, so we really need him to return to some score, to put some scoreboard pressure on the Viatel team. And can Danaher back up from his impressive 5-goal performance last week against the Roos, against a more formidable Demons outfit? Waterman, he's looking great. He's kicking, a couple of goals most weeks, so can he continue this form? Dan Butler's been pretty quiet, so can he get busier as well for the Fortress? I think they will need that small forward in particular to maybe have a bit of a day out. I don't know if he'll do that against the Giants, but he can easily kick a couple of goals if he's switched on. For the Viatel team, they have got Ugle Hagen, who looks threatening most weeks. Jack Higgins has been actually a really nice selection by them. He's quite threatening and really helping the team out. So I really like what Jack Higgins is doing. Harley Reid actually last week just looked really imposing in front of the goals. I think he played closer to goals last week, and I think he will have more confidence now because of that, and I expect him to kick a couple of goals. Eric Hipwood, he's a little bit of a hot and cold player. Kicked 3 goals last week. I don't know what he'll do against the Ds. I don't suspect he will be all too damaging. But Charlie Curnow is the one that I'm expecting a big game from. He is one of those players that dominates under the roof at Marvel, so I think he could kick maybe 4 or 5 goals. And with that in mind, my selection this week, I think it is the Curnow factor for Viatel, and I think that's what will get them across the line for a 95 to 78 point game. So 95 to 78, it will be a 17-point win to Viatel. Okay, so let's have a look at who's best with the Fest for the end of round 4, our gather round. At number 5 is a Saints player who inspired Viatel to a tight victory against the Vengeance last week, and that is Jack Higgins. Kicked a couple of goals. They're really crucial. He's been doing that pretty consistently over the past few weeks. So he's number 5. In number 4, we have Shai Bolton with his 4 goals last week. Again, another small forward that's, really hitting the scoreboard hard, and making a massive impact. So he's at number 4, and I expect him again to kick maybe 3 goals this week against the Eagles on Sunday. At number 3 is Charlie Curnow, who also kicked 3 goals last week, and he's a Marvel specialist, so returns there this week, and I think he will kick maybe 4 or 5 goals. So I'm expecting him to stay in that top 3 come this time next week. At number 2 is no surprise, it is Bailey Fritsch, again kicking 3 goals and 2 of them in real quick time. It really changed the game last week, and he's having a massive season for the teams that have Bailey Fritsch. So he's number 2. And at number 1, and this is not really a shock, but it is Jesse Hogan who booted 4 goals, getting a victory against Rubber Gloves. I think it was for Rocket Rod. And also, despite the Funky Bulls losing, Hogan has kept them very competitive and with their 2-2 scoreline. So Hogan is number 1. Let's see how many of these players are in the top 5 this time next week. I'd also like to say thanks everyone for your support.